500 rand a day, the man with the scar said, smoke curling from his cigarette. That's what the tower pays for smart people. Samuel nearly choked on his tea. That was more money than he'd made in his best week of construction work. Is it illegal? The man's face grew serious. In this country, being poor is the real crime. Did you come to Joburg to be poor? Samuel thought about his mother and sisters back in the village, about the promises he'd made when he left home, about his youngest sister's voice on the phone last week. Mama is sick again, but she won't go to the clinic because it costs money. The man, Victor, he'd called himself, tapped ash from his cigarette. Come to the tower tomorrow at 10. Door on the backside. Knock 3 times. Wait, then 2 more knocks. He stood up. Think about it, but don't tell anyone. After Victor left, Samuel sat for a long time in the small cafe, the half-eaten fat cake cooling on his plate. 500 rand a day could change everything. He could help his family. He could save for school. Maybe after a few months, he could find a legal job with good pay. But what exactly were they doing in that empty tower? Samuel had first noticed the tower the day before, walking slowly down Pretoria Street. The tower wasn't the tallest building in Hillbrow, but it was the emptiest. 28 floors of broken windows and faded paint. Once it had been called the Highland Tower, a place where rich people lived. That was 30 years ago. Now people just called it the Fallen Tower. Samuel was 19, thin but strong, with short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. He had moved to Johannesburg from a small village near Polokwane 6 months ago. His mother had cried when he left, but they both knew there were no jobs in the village. In the city, he could find work and send money home to help his 3 younger sisters. But finding work wasn't easy. Samuel had finished high school with good marks, but in Johannesburg, that didn't seem to matter. He had tried everything: construction sites, food deliveries, security jobs. Nothing lasted. Now his money was almost gone, and the small room he rented in Berea was already paid for the month. The next morning, Samuel stood behind the fallen tower, staring at the rusty metal door. No handle, no lock, just solid metal with faded red paint. A part of him wanted to walk away, go back to looking for honest work, but another part remembered his responsibilities. The faces of his family back home who counted on him. 3 knocks. Wait. 2 more knocks. The door opened a few inches. A large man with a shaved head looked at him. Yes. Victor told me to come. I'm Samuel. The man nodded and opened the door. Inside was not what Samuel expected. The ground floor of the tower was clean and well lit. What once might have been a lobby was now a big room with tables where about a dozen people worked on laptops. Others talked on phones. In the corner, a woman counted money, stacking it in neat piles. This way, the large man said, leading Samuel to an elevator. It works, Samuel asked in surprise. Everything works in the tower, the man said, pushing the button for the 15th floor. The owner makes sure of it. The elevator was slow but smooth. When the doors opened, they stepped into a hallway with new paint and bright lights. The large man led Samuel to a door at the end and knocked. Come in, called a voice. The room inside was large and sunny, with big windows looking over Johannesburg. It had been made by knocking down walls between old apartments. There were comfortable chairs, a big desk, and shelves with books. Behind the desk sat a man Samuel had never seen before, but whose face he knew. Everyone in Johannesburg knew Ghost. Ghost wasn't his real name, of course. Nobody knew that. They called him Ghost because he seemed to appear and disappear in the city like something not real. His picture was sometimes in the newspapers or on TV when the police blamed him for a crime, but could never catch him. Some people said he was from Nigeria, others said Congo or even Russia. But his face, with its sharp cheekbones and cold eyes, was unmistakable. So you're Victor's new find, Ghost said, looking up from his laptop. Samuel tried to keep his face calm. Yes, sir. Sir? Ghost laughed. This isn't the army. Sit down. Samuel sat in the chair across from the desk. Victor says you're smart and hungry. That's a good combination. Ghost closed his laptop. What do you think we do here, Samuel? Samuel looked at the fancy room at Ghost's expensive watch and clothes. I think you make money in ways the police don't like. Ghost smiled. Honest, that's good. Yes, we make money. We sell things people want but can't get easily. We protect businesses that pay us because the police don't protect them. We move money for people who need it moved quietly. And all of that requires organization, which is why we need the tower. And what would I do? Samuel asked. Start small, learn, be useful. Ghost pushed a stack of papers across the desk. These need to be organized. Addresses, phone numbers, amounts paid and owed. Make a system so we can find information quickly. You said you're good with numbers, show me. For the next 3 hours, Samuel worked at a small desk in the corner of Ghost's office, sorting papers and entering information into a spreadsheet on a laptop they gave him. The work was simple, but Samuel was careful and thorough. Ghost mostly ignored him, making calls and working on his own computer. Sometimes other people came in, men and women who spoke quietly to Ghost, took orders, or gave reports. When Samuel finished, he showed Ghost the system he'd created. Ghost looked at it for a few minutes, asking questions, testing to see how easy it was to find information. Finally, he nodded. Good work, 500 Rand, as promised. Ghost handed him cash. Come back tomorrow, same time. Samuel took the money. 1 day's work, and he had enough to send his mother for medicine and still buy food for himself. Thank you. As he turned to leave, Ghost said, Samuel, the tower's business stays in the tower. Understand? Yes, I understand. Walking home to Berea that evening, Samuel felt strange. The money in his pocket made him happy and worried at the same time. He had worked hard, but he knew the information he organized was about illegal things. Was he already a criminal? He decided to send most of the money to his mother right away, before he could think too much about where it came from. Days turned into weeks. Samuel came to the tower every morning at 10 and left at 6. His job grew from organizing papers to managing information on the computer, keeping track of money, and sometimes delivering messages to other floors of the tower. He learned that each floor had a different purpose. Floors 1 through 5 were for the office workers, people who kept records, answered phones, and managed the daily business. Floors 6 through 10 were living spaces for Ghost's most trusted workers. Floors 11 to 14 were where they kept the things they sold: drugs, stolen goods, counterfeit money. The 15th floor was Ghost's office and home. Samuel never saw above floor 15, but he heard that the higher floors were for special business. Victor became Samuel's friend and teacher. He explained how things worked in the tower, who could be trusted, who should be avoided. Ghost likes you, Victor said one day as they ate lunch in what used to be a restaurant on the 5th floor, now a canteen for tower workers. He says you have a good mind. I just do the work, Samuel said. No, you understand the work. That's different. Most people here just follow orders. You see how everything connects. It was true. Samuel had started to understand how Ghost's business worked. The flow of money, goods, and information. He saw patterns that others missed. When he suggested a better way to track payments, Ghost had listened and made the change. Samuel's room in Berea now had new curtains, a small refrigerator, and a better bed. He sent money home every week. His mother's voice on the phone was stronger, happier. His sisters were still in school with new uniforms and books. But sometimes at night, Samuel couldn't sleep. He would think about what the tower really was, a criminal headquarters in plain sight. And he was part of it now. One evening in his 3rd month, Ghost asked Samuel to come to his office after normal hours. I have a problem, Ghost said when Samuel arrived. One of our distributors in Soweto is reporting lower sales but requesting the same supply. Either his territory is getting poorer suddenly, or he's selling to someone else on the side and keeping the extra money. You want me to check the numbers? I want you to check him, Ghost said. Go to Soweto tomorrow, watch him. See if he meets anyone he shouldn't. Samuel felt his stomach tighten. This was different from office work. I don't know if I can. You can, Ghost said firmly. You see things, you understand patterns. Take Victor with you. Just watch and report back to me. The next day, Samuel and Victor sat in a car across from a small shop in Soweto. They watched as people came and went. Most left with small packages. That's how they distribute, Victor explained, hidden in everyday items. Around 3 p.m., their target, a middle-aged man named Elias, locked his shop and walked to a nearby taxi rank. They followed in their car, keeping a distance. Elias took a taxi to another part of Soweto and entered a house. An hour later, he came out and returned to his shop. What do you think? Victor asked as they drove back to the tower. I think he's selling to someone else, Samuel said. The house isn't in an area Ghost controls, and Elias was carrying a bag when he went in, but not when he came out. When they reported to Ghost, he nodded. Good work, I'll take care of it. Samuel didn't ask what taking care of it meant. He didn't want to know. That night he called his mother. You sound tired, she said. Just working hard. You've sent so much money, Samuel. Your sisters and I are grateful, but I worry about you. What kind of work is so well paying for a young man in Johannesburg? Samuel had told her he found work at a shipping company. It's good work, Mama. I'm learning a lot. After the call, Samuel stood at his window, looking toward Hillbrow. From his room, he could just see the top of the Fallen Tower. He felt pulled between two worlds. His family's need and the growing unease about his work. But the next day, he went back to the tower, and the day after that. The money was too good, and somewhere along the way, the tower had become a strange kind of home. 6 months into his time at the tower, Samuel had his own office on the 4th floor. He managed a team of 3 people who kept track of all the money coming in and going out of Ghost's business. Ghost trusted him with information few others saw. Victor had moved up too, now managing security for the whole tower. Sometimes Samuel didn't see him for days. One rainy Tuesday, Ghost called Samuel to his office. We have a big opportunity, Ghost said, looking out the window at the wet city. A police captain wants to retire. He's selling information about a planned raid on one of our storage places in Yeovil. How much? Samuel asked. 200,000 rand. Samuel whistled softly. That's a lot. Can we trust him? We've dealt with him before, but I want you to check his information before we pay. If it's a trap, we need to know. This was a big responsibility. Samuel nodded slowly. I'll need access to the police reports Victor gets from his contacts. You'll have it. This is important, Samuel. If we lose that storage, we lose about 5 million rand in product and could have 20 people arrested. For the next 2 days, Samuel barely slept. He compared the police captain's information with other reports, looking for anything that didn't match. He sent one of his team members to secretly watch the police station near the storage place, counting how many officers came and went at different times. On Thursday, he went to Ghost's office with his findings. The raid is real, he said, showing Ghost the patterns he'd found. But it's not just our storage they're targeting. They're planning raids on 3 places that night, including one of our competitors' main operations. Ghost studied the information. So the captain is selling the same information to others. I think so. And there's something else. Samuel pointed to a report. This shows they're bringing in officers from other stations. That's unusual for a small raid. I think they're planning something bigger than just arrests. Ghost looked at Samuel with new respect. You may have saved us from a major problem. He picked up his phone. We'll pay the captain his money, but we'll move everything from that storage tonight. And we'll let our competitors know about the raid. Won't that tell the police we have inside information? Samuel asked. Number. They'll think there was a leak in their own ranks. Happens all the time. Ghost smiled. You've done well, Samuel. Very well. That evening, Ghost called Samuel back to his office. Victor was there too, along with two other high-ranking members of the tower operation. "Starting tomorrow, you're my financial advisor," Ghost announced. "You'll have an apartment on the 8th floor. Your salary is now 2,000 rand a day." Samuel could barely speak. "Thank you." "You've earned it," Ghost said. "Few people understand this business as quickly as you have. I need that mind working for me at a higher level." Later, as Samuel and Victor shared a drink in Victor's apartment on the 7th floor, Victor raised his glass in a toast. "Welcome to the inner circle." Samuel sipped his drink. "Did you know this would happen when you found me staring at the tower that day?" Victor laughed. "I knew you were smart and hungry. That's all Ghost needs to see. He finds people who need something badly enough to take risks, but who are smart enough to make those risks worthwhile." "And you? What did you need badly enough?" Victor's smile faded. "Same as you, family to support. No legal work that paid enough." He finished his drink. "But now I need this life. The money, the respect, the power in the tower. Once you're in deep, it's hard to imagine being anywhere else." Samuel understood. He now had more money than he'd ever dreamed of. His mother had moved to a better house. His sisters were in good schools. He had respect in the tower. People listened when he spoke. But that night, in his small room in Berea for the last time, Samuel wondered about the path ahead. He was no longer just organizing papers or tracking money. He was helping plan criminal activities. He was protecting an illegal empire. The next day, he moved into the tower permanently. 3 more months passed. Samuel's life changed completely. His apartment in the tower was bigger than any home he'd ever lived in, with new furniture and a view of the city. He ate in good restaurants, bought nice clothes, and even owned a car, a used BMW that Victor helped him find. His mother no longer asked what kind of work he did. Perhaps she didn't want to know. She just thanked him for the money and told him about his sister's school achievements. Then came the Tuesday when everything changed. Samuel was in his office reviewing financial reports when Victor burst in. "We have a problem," Victor said, his face tense. "A big one." "What's happened?" "The police have a new commander in Hillbrow. He's making the tower his special project. One of our sources says they've been building a case for months." Samuel set down his papers. "Do they have enough for arrests?" "Not yet, but they're close. They've been photographing everyone coming in and out. They've asked for warrants to tap our phones." "Have they identified Ghost?" "No, he's still careful. But they know the tower's headquarters for something big." "We should tell Ghost right away." They found Ghost in his office, already meeting with 2 other lieutenants. He didn't look surprised by the news. "I've heard," he said calmly. "This new commander is trying to make a name for himself. We need to slow him down." "How do we do that?" one of the lieutenants asked. Ghost looked at Samuel. "What do you suggest?" Samuel hadn't expected the question. He thought carefully. "We need to make the tower look less suspicious. Move the obvious illegal operations elsewhere temporarily. Keep only the business that can look legitimate from the outside." Ghost nodded. "Good start. What else?" "Find out what evidence they already have. Then we'll know what to change or hide." "And the commander himself?" Samuel hesitated. In his head, he knew what Ghost was asking. The easiest solution would be to bribe the commander, or, if that failed, threaten him. Or worse. But Samuel still had lines he didn't want to cross. "We should learn more about him first," Samuel said carefully. "Everyone has something they care about or some weakness. We find that, then decide how to use it." Ghost studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Victor, get our police contacts working on this commander's background. Samuel, work with the team to move our most visible operations out of the tower by tomorrow. Spread them to our other locations around the city." For the next 24 hours, the tower was busy with careful, quiet movement. Drugs, stolen goods, counterfeit money, all moved to smaller locations around Johannesburg. People who looked too obviously like criminals were told to stay away from the tower for a while. By Thursday, the tower looked almost like a regular apartment building with some small businesses on the lower floors. Ghost had Samuel help set up fake companies, a web design firm, a call center, an import-export business. If the police came to check, they'd find people working at computers, talking on phones, moving packages that contained ordinary goods. Victor's contacts brought information about the commander, a man named Coetzee, who had made his career fighting drug gangs in Cape Town before being transferred to Johannesburg. He was known to be honest, not someone who could be easily bribed. He lived alone, was divorced, and seemed to care only about his work. A true believer, Ghost said after hearing the report. Those are the dangerous ones. For 2 weeks, they operated in this careful way. Some business slowed, but Ghost seemed more concerned with protecting the tower itself than with temporary loss of profits. Then, on a Friday afternoon, it happened. Victor called Samuel's office phone. Police, front and back. At least 20 officers. Samuel looked out his window and saw police vehicles surrounding the tower. Is Ghost here? Samuel asked urgently. No, he left an hour ago. You're the highest-ranking person in the building right now. Samuel's heart pounded. Tell everyone to stick to the plan. We're all legitimate businesses here. No one knows anything about any illegal activities. They have a search warrant. They're coming in now. Stay calm. Remember, we moved everything. Samuel closed his office door and quickly checked his computer, making sure nothing suspicious was visible. He opened a spreadsheet with fake business accounts, made to look like he'd been working on it all day. 5 minutes later, his door opened and 2 police officers entered, followed by a tall man in plain clothes with hard eyes. Commander Coetzee. Samuel Ndlovu? The commander asked. Yes, that's me. What's this about? We're executing a search warrant for this entire building. Evidence of criminal organization, drug trafficking, money laundering. Samuel looked surprised but not frightened. I think there's been a mistake. I'm the financial manager for Highland Tech Solutions. He gestured to his computer. We do web design and IT support. The commander didn't smile. We'll see. Don't leave this room. For the next 3 hours, police searched the tower floor by floor. Samuel sat in his office with an officer watching him, trying to look bored and slightly annoyed rather than terrified. Finally, Commander Coetzee returned. Mr. Ndlovu, you're coming with us for questioning. Am I under arrest? Samuel asked, remembering what he'd learned from tower lawyers about his rights. Not yet, but we have questions about your employer and this building. As they led Samuel out, he saw other tower workers also being taken away. Victor was already in a police car. At the police station, they put Samuel in a small room with a table and 2 chairs. He waited for an hour before Commander Coetzee entered with a folder. Let's not waste time. Coetzee said, sitting down. We know the tower is run by the criminal known as Ghost. We know it's the headquarters for one of the largest criminal operations in Johannesburg. What we don't know is who exactly does what. That's where you come in. I don't know what you're talking about, Samuel said calmly. I work for Highland Tech Solutions. I manage their finances. Highland Tech Solutions doesn't exist, Coetzee said flatly. It's a fake company with no customers and no products. We have customers. Check our records. Fake records! Coetzee opened the folder. What's not fake is the money going into your bank account. 2,000 rand a day. Very good salary for a financial manager at a small tech company that no one has heard of. Samuel shrugged. I'm very good at my job. I'm sure you are. The question is, what is your real job? Coetzee leaned forward. We've been watching the tower for months. We know most of what happens there. What we need now is someone on the inside to tell us the details. Someone who's smart enough to know when it's time to save himself. I don't know what you're talking about, Samuel repeated. Coetzee sighed. Let me be clear. We're going to charge you with being part of a criminal organization. That's 15 years in prison. Unless you help us. I want a lawyer, Samuel said. Coetzee stood up. Think about it overnight. Prison is a long time for a young man, especially one who's obviously smart enough to do something better with his life. They put Samuel in a cell with two other men from the tower. Lower-level workers he knew slightly. No one spoke much. They all knew the rules about keeping quiet. Samuel lay on the hard bunk, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in months, he had time to really think about his life and choices. The tower had given him money and status, but now it might cost him his freedom. What would happen to his mother and sisters if he went to prison? All the progress they'd made would be lost, but if he talked to the police, Ghost would find him eventually. Everyone knew what happened to people who betrayed the tower. In the quiet darkness of the cell, Samuel faced the truth he'd been avoiding. There was no easy way out now. He was trapped between Ghost and the law, between the tower and the world outside. And somewhere in his heart, he knew which side he had chosen the day he first knocked on that rusty red door.